Thank you again, everybody, for joining us today. I'm Paul Zeno. I'm VP of Support here with MusicMaster. I'm going to introduce to you all today to Chris Malone. He's the newest member of our support team here at MusicMaster, but he comes with a whole bunch of programming experience under his belt, most recently having programmed in Boston. He's also been in Memphis and some other of the bigger markets as well, and he's taken to MusicMaster very quickly, and he's got a lot of great stuff to show us today. So with that, I'm going to turn things over to Chris Malone. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Paul, for that introduction. And thank you to everyone on this call for taking time out of your day. This session is about time savers. So hopefully this information will allow you to shave a little time in your music scheduling process. As Paul mentioned, I am the newest music scheduling consultant here at MusicMaster, but this time last year, I was in a position like many of you, sitting in an office wearing multiple hats as program director, music director, APD, afternoon drive. There's a lot to do at a radio station today and not a lot of help. So I had to really learn the intricacies of my music scheduler to get the most out of it. And these are some tips that I want to share with you. And I think we can all agree. 2020, this year has been, out of this world with coronavirus and everything else. So I think it's a good time to just hit the reset button on 2020 and come up with some new resolutions. And hopefully saving time at work is one of your resolutions. Again, we're going to be talking about some time-saving tips on this webinar to speed up your workflows. I'll go over some cool library hacks to help you save time. Also, you'll walk away from this webinar able to schedule like a boss. Since you are the boss, you'll be able to schedule like a boss after this. We've got some tips on how to become a clock game changer. And if you stick around, towards the end, I've got a bonus tip on how you can open up your world in MusicMaster. Let's start with some pretty simple basics that, to me, are time savers. Over to the left, everyone is quite familiar with the info bar area of MusicMaster. If you notice mine, it's a little jumbled up, it's out of place, and there are some things missing that are really important time-saving features. For example, if you don't have it set up on your database already, you can get an actual song or slot count or average runtime count on each of your categories. And it's easy to set up. Again, if you don't already have this, you want to go to Tools, Options, and then under Library Editor Options, there's this section where you can show extra category information. And again, to me, this is helpful because, I may not know off the top of my head how many gold songs I have in that category or how many currents I have in that category off the top of my head, but I can select song count, and this puts the information right in parentheses on my info bar. Again, super helpful. A lot of databases already have this, but if you don't have it, it's available under Tools, Options, Library, Editor Options. And while we're in the info bar area, I want to introduce you to what we call the category editor. Category editor is pretty cool. It's a feature that not a lot of programmers use, but say, for example, you've got a ton of categories listed. This is actually pretty good. It looks like I'm working with maybe 15 different categories or so, but I've seen stations with over 100 different categories. My gold rest is down here by my Christmas powers. My new gold is somewhere between my hold, and my recurrent is all jumbled out of order. So under Category Editor, you can select a category, move it around to where you want it to be, so you're not having to scroll up and down your info bar. Again, not a lot of people know about this. It's a simple right-click on the info bar and Category Editor, and I'm going to go ahead and start arranging things in an order that looks best for me. Some other functions under Category Editor, you can also adjust your colors. We have some pre-made templates for a coloring scheme that may be helpful as you're looking for categories and things of that nature. These hacks are sometimes built into your database, and sometimes you have to go in there and do it yourself. I want to stress that as I'm rearranging categories, for example, if I want to move my fill category down below my hold and etc., This is not your schedule order. This is purely for visual. Your schedule order is a totally separate part of the program. But now that I have everything organized the way that I want it, now, I can easily call up my current, recurrent, new gold. Everything looks good. I'm going to click OK. And now you see the info bar is in a nice little hierarchy for me. And it's easier for me to scroll up and down and get exactly what I want. Also, another interesting hack in our info bar area, we call this what we do with category groups. And I'm not sure if you're using category groups to its max potential at your station, but for me, it is something that is pretty cool. I can create a category group where, you may have sound codes all over your library and a lot of your active categories. You can group those together in a category group. The songs remain in the original category, but it's just nice to be able to call that information up, and we can do that with category groups. So I'm going to set up a scenario here where I want to pull all of my active music together in one simple category group. I'll click OK. And now I can go ahead and start setting up my active music categories that I want linked together in this group. Again, these are my rotated categories. We'll leave gold rest out, but we will include power core. Now that I've got everything set up, these are my active music categories. I click OK. And that new category group now lives right here. So these are all of the active songs in my category, and I can then proceed to sort them and do things of that nature. This also comes in handy if you're working with a consultant or a VP at the national level who says, hey, I need a report every week of your active music. I want to see your playlist and what's been done every week with your actives. So if I get that call, the first thing I'm going to do is, of course, set up that active music category group, but also I'm going to design this view so it's a little friendly when I do a quick print for this report. So to design your view, you may be familiar with the modify library layout. It's a index card with a pencil on it. It's right in between the save icon and the load icon. So I'm going to click that. And I want to get this view just right. I know that my consultant or VP, they're going to be looking for category, title, artist. Those are cool things. They may not be interested in sound code, tempo, energy, or any of these extra fields. So I'm just going to start removing some of the extra stuff out of the way and just get down to the basics. I'm going to click OK. So now I've narrowed that down, and I'm going to save this view as report view. So I'm not going to make it my default design, but I do definitely want to just be able to load this view when it's time to send those reports off. And we don't want to overwrite again. We want to save this as a new design. So we're going to call it report. Save. There you go. And I can do a quick print to PDF, and then you now have this nice, easy report thanks to this category group of all of your active songs that you can send off to whomever requests that data. That's one way to use your category groups. Another way to use category groups is perhaps you want to pull together one particular sound code and see that. I've got format superstars all across my active music categories, but I want to make sure I can just look at my format superstars every now and then. So again, we're going to go to category groups. We're going to create a new group. We're going to call this one format superstars, and I'll be able to check off these categories and do a query a little bit later on down the road to pull up those actual format superstars within my active music categories. So category groups, again, super easy to set up, and and then once you have your group together, you can always do a query of, say, for example, the format superstars sound code that I'm looking for. Let's do type. I believe they're in my database as type. So the type equals format superstar. We click that. We add this filter to the list. And there we are. Here are my format superstars. based on my active music categories. So again, category groups, pretty cool to have that information off to the side, handy and ready for you to pull up at any given time. Another cool hack in the library maintenance area of MusicMaster is what we call auto move. Looking at this category here, and let me go ahead and load out the old school. This is my original grid. So I wanted to load that so we can see more information on the song. But looking at this category, I'm looking at a song. I know we're going into summer, and Fergie, Big Girls Don't Cry, is a song that it probably isn't going to be fit for summertime. So I want to go ahead and set an auto move date on this particular song. And there are two ways to achieve that. You can either right click. When I right click, I can then go to move and edit an auto move for the current song, or you can even click up here. Excuse me, I got away from the category, but click up in your library portion and set up an auto move as well. So let's set up an auto move for Fergie, Big Girls Don't Cry. I've got the song highlighted, and we're going to set up a move for this particular song. Again, I know it's a down-tempo song. We're going into summer months, so, I'm going to go ahead and add a situation where this song will automatically move out of current into maybe a slower turnover category. So maybe I'll move it to a new goal just to slow it down on a particular date. Again, I want to set this up so it doesn't slow my powers down for summertime. So I'll say June 1 is the date that I want this song to move. Keep in mind, this June 1 is the actual schedule date and not the calendar date. So when you go to schedule the log for June 1, you will notice that this song has automatically moved in the background now that I have everything set up the way that I want. We click OK. And that's just one less thing that I have to worry about. It's almost like having a music director in your pocket with a function such as auto move. Now, if you're lucky enough to have a music director in 2020, that is awesome. We have what we call category quick move. And this is a pretty neat function where you can move things around categories pretty quickly, just, within seconds, actually. So to get there, I'm going to go to Dataset, Library, Category Quick Move. Now, in this screen, I can now set up the categories that I want to kind of jumble things around. So for this example, I'm going to set up current, recurrent, and power core. I'm going to remove the checkboxes for my hold and fill categories and also include power core. So I've got music day here, and I've got some decisions to make on what goes where. This is just a pretty easy way to shift things around your library. So, for example, I've got my recurrent, and I want to move Kobe Calais to a power core song. She's graduated up. She's been in recurrent for quite some time. I'm going to move that song over to power core just like that. The song is automatically in the new category. And if you notice down here in this indicator box where it says original song count and current song count, it tells me that, okay, your recurrents are now one short and your power core is now one over. Pretty handy information to have, especially if you've got your rotations just right. You want to make sure that you're paying attention to that box as you're making moves in and around your database. So let me get my recurrent category back up to par. Original song count 19. I'm okay with the power core being a little healthier than most. And of course, we know new music is coming in at all the time. So I can fill that current song count back up as soon as I talk to the labels. I've made my few changes, but I'm going to go ahead and save that. And there we have it. Those saves are those moves are locked in place for you. You can do this with any category that you want. I've seen this very handy with clients when music tests come in and you're trying to sort out your gold categories and you're making a lot of changes on the fly. You can set it up to just quickly just move things left and right across the databases and across the categories Just that simple. Again, it's like having a music director in a box, and that is called Category Quick Move. Again, you get there by going to Dataset, Library, and Category Quick Move. There's another cool function to have. If you're trying to move songs automatically in the background without putting a lot of brain work into, okay, what did I move? When did I move it? And things of that nature, we call this area Auto Platoon, and it is in MusicMaster under Schedule. So you go to Dataset, Schedule, and we have Auto Platoon. I've got one particular Auto Platoon already set up, and I'll explain how I got there. I've got this Auto Platoon set up between my gold and my gold rest categories. So let's explain exactly what I'm doing. As I sort my artists, I notice, I've got a lot of songs by the Beatles, a ton of songs by the Beatles in this active music category. So in order to keep that list of Beatles songs fresh, I can auto platoon songs in and out of rest and active rotation with this cool handy feature. So again, if we go back to schedule and then auto platoon, you'll see that okay, I've got gold and gold rest set up. Let's go ahead and edit this particular auto platoon property here. I've got gold to move on a certain date, and I want to exchange 10 Beatles songs with my gold category and 10 Beatles songs with the songs that are in my gold rest category. So to set that up, I entered the number of slots to move each time. So of course that's 10. And I'm going to apply a filter to where it only moves songs that contain the artist Beatles. Love it. Simple to set up. And I can apply this filter in both directions and even set up a schedule for this to happen automatically in the background without thinking. So I've got this to exchange these Beatles songs every month on the 21st. So the event is set up. I can even run a quick analysis to see what MusicMaster says. There are a total of 11 songs in the primary category. There are 10 songs in the secondary category. You want to make sure that there are enough songs in your secondary category to cover this platoon. The number of songs to move each time is what I've indicated. 10, of course. And then you also have some other handy information here, approximate number of days, one song to cycle out and back is 61. Just some good information to have. And it's a good way to check and make sure your auto platoon is set up correct. I click OK. And there we have it. And I can either click perform, and that performs the task right now, or I can click OK and just trust that every month on the 21st, we're going to exchange those 10 Beatles songs out of gold into gold rest, and it will work just fine for me. Again, auto platoon, another good way if you don't have a music director to make it happen. And as I was preparing this, I was thinking, time saving for program directors, honestly, is one less thought, one less decision. Those are things that help us save time in the long run. If we don't have to make a decision for once in our day, those things help us. So if you can set auto move up in the beginning, if you can set up auto platoon, take a day to go through and figure out what you want to platoon in and out of a category, that's just one less decision you have to make. I've also seen stations use auto platoon to expand the life of their music test as well. We all know that, once you get that fresh music test back in, if you're so lucky to have one, you don't want to give all of your goods out at once. This is a way with auto platoon to move a subset out of active rotation into rest and so on and so forth, swap them out. So you're always sounding fresh. You're keeping your competitors on edge, not sure exactly what you're doing. So let's move to another cool function in MusicMaster, especially in your library maintenance portion of the program. It's called Mass Changer. If you don't know about Mass Changer, it allows you to do a lot of bulk work in the least amount of time as possible. So since we're talking about the Beatles, you notice that up and down my artist field here, most of my songs are pretty consistent, uppercase, lowercase, mixed case, looks good. But when I get to the Beatles, I notice that it's all lowercase, and that's not something exactly that I want. Usually, your artist information, depending on your automation system, is your RDS information too that shows up in a listener's car. So, I'm a stickler for this being as consistent as possible. So, under the artist field, I can right click and then open up Mass Changer. Mass Changer will allow me to do a number of different operations to this field all at once. So my target field is artist, but for the Beatles, I want to ensure that it's mixed case, not lowercase, but mixed case, like the rest of the artists in this particular field. So again, I want to convert text to mixed case under my artist field. I want to confirm each change. That's okay. You want to at least see this process through. Click OK. And it's going to convert the case in every situation. For example, Art of Noise was also out of case. So yes, I wanted to change. Here's that Beatles example, lowercase Beatles. Now it is mixed case. And I can go ahead and click yes to all. And it's going to run through the process. A total of 19 songs have changed. And there we are. I'm happy because there's finally consistency with my Beatles. Mass Changer works across most keyword and attribute fields across your library. That's one example of mass change with artist and a keyword field or text field. But there's also an example where, say your consultant comes to you and wants to suddenly change all of your female pop songs in your current recurrent category to girl pop. He wants to create this new sound code, and you're thinking like, oh my goodness, I've got to do this extra work. It's a lot easier than you might think. So if my consultant says, hey, we want to take the songs in your current and recurrent, anything that's female and pop, we want to make that girl pop. So let's go ahead and first create that sound code. That's an attribute. And for me, I know that my sound codes are here. I'm going to add girl pop as a new sound code or attribute in this case. So we'll give it the attribute code of G and we'll call it girl pop. That's step one. Now that we've got that created, now let's go ahead and query the library here. And you know what? I'll do a big query across my current and recurrent categories. I'm looking for, let's see, I'll filter this with role, female, contains any of female. We'll add this to the query, and also I want to add the sound code pop. And so this will show me the female pop songs that I have, and then I will proceed to make that mass change. So sound contains any of pop. Pop is a P, and there we go. We add that to our filter. Click OK. And so it looks like these are the pop female artists that I need to change. So I go to my sound code category. I right click, open up Mass Changer, and I'm going to search for the code P, capital P, and I want to replace that with the newly created attribute girl pop. Click OK. I can confirm a couple of these changes to make sure, yeah, that all looks good. I'm just going to go ahead and say yes to all. A total of 6 songs have now changed from pop to girl pop. So again, if you have to make a lot of changes, this works with tempo. Maybe you've got a 1 to 5 structure that suddenly turns into 1 to 3, slow, medium, fast. You can make those changes in mass with Mass Changer. A couple of other cool things with Mass Changer. You can even, for example, let's open up my new gold category. And you notice that we have first name, last name, Atlantis Morissette, Alicia Keys, we can even do a mass change on this and perhaps change to last name first. A lot of program directors prefer this. So let's see what happens when we run that. Did I run that correctly? I don't know if I did that one correct or not. But again, you can definitely convert. Let's see. There we go. Couple of them changed. There we are. Keys Alicia. You've got Spears Brittany, so on and so forth. So Mass Changer, if you don't know a lot about it, you may want to check out some blogs on our website or even our MusicMaster YouTube channel and get familiar with that one. So again, we've got a lot of good stuff to cover. We're just barely scratching the surface here. I next want to show you how you can schedule like a boss in MusicMaster. So we're going to open up our scheduler.
Before you get rolling with that, Chris, I just want to remind everybody that there is the Q&A button on the left side of your screen. If you do have any questions, you can feel free to pop those in there. I've been answering a good number of them so far during our session today. And Chris, you're getting thumbs up from lots of folks, so keep up the good work. And thank you, everybody.
Love it.
And stick around. Here's Chris's tips on scheduling.
Yes, let's schedule like a boss because, we spend a lot of time in our schedule editor and doing things of that nature. Here's a cool, funny function in MusicMaster that I tell all of my clients about. When I'm getting set to run an automatic schedule, there is an options tab, and tucked away is this really cool function where you can play an audio file at the end of the scheduling session. So again, you're busy during the day. You've got people coming in and out of your office. You're on phone calls. I've got a file that says you've got mail. It plays every time MusicMaster completes a schedule. You can set it up for whatever you want. Maybe you've got a sonic logo for your radio station. You can path that sound file there, either an MP3 or WAV. You can set this all up. Again, it's under your automatic schedule. Once you get to this screen, flip over to options and activate play audio file at the end of a session. I'm not sure if you're going to be able to hear the audio, but I'm going to go ahead and schedule this Sunday's log, and it's going to zip through. And as I'm talking to you, I'm going to hear this. You've got mail, the infamous AOL sounder. I think that's a really cool function. It's, not talked about enough. But again, when you have two phones up to your head all day, it's sort of like getting that dinner's ready bell. And it's super cool to, and just like I said, pretty funny to have. So that, again, is sort of a schedule editor time that you can set up in your database. All right, so we're going to handle these unscheduled positions like a boss. I've got a couple of unscheduled positions, as you can see this week. If you're in version 7, there is this really cool hour display bar over to the right of the screen, as you can see here. And it tells me exactly where my unscheduled positions are located. And the cool thing about this bar, I can click on this indicator. It looks like I have one unscheduled song in the 5 a.m. hour. Click on that indicator, and it takes me right to that unscheduled song. Now, another hack that I want to share with you is what we call Shift F9. It is sort of an auto replacement feature. So, when we get these unscheduled positions, for me, I'm just trying to, A, make sure things are well balanced, and B, I'm just trying to fill that unscheduled, move on to the next failure in my log, if there are any. So let me introduce you to Shift F9, which is auto replace. I'm going to go to Tools, Options, and set up this function just the way that I want it. So under Replacement Song Options, my search mode, I'm going to scroll down to auto replacement song search. Again, that is Shift F9. And what I want to do, when I run across an unscheduled position, I want MusicMaster to auto schedule a song from a particular predetermined category. Instead of my new gold, I want MusicMaster to perhaps pull from my fill category. It's a category that, contains some songs of variety, and I know they pretty much fit all over the clock. And honestly, these are songs that, I cheat with every now and then. So I've got my fill category selected. And again, let me just scroll up and down this list and ensure nothing else is checked. So when I go to my schedule and hit Shift F9, I don't get a lunar category or something like that. So I click apply and okay. So let's test this theory out. I've got this unscheduled position in my schedule, and I want to hit Shift F9 so MusicMaster will automatically auto schedule using a song from my fill list. There it is. Bam. We've got our category fill, and it popped in Rolling Stones. You can't always get what you want. Again, when it comes to unscheduled, if you're running a very tight database or library, you're doing all sorts of things to just get a log out. And again, Shift F9 is just one of those cool functions, but you want to make sure you set it up properly. Again, we go to Tools, Options, Replacement Song Options. Again, I'm most concerned about this cool feature, auto replacement. And I want to auto replace from a specific category. I can include other categories if I want, but I've created a fill category just for this purpose. Click apply, and it works wonders. Even if I go to my next unscheduled position in the category, which is Shift, or am I doing this right? Control N or Shift N? I get my shortcuts mixed up, but I can jump down to my next failure, and we'll talk about shortcuts in a minute because there is a reason why you want to print out a list of shortcuts. So I'm going to just going to keep jumping down and see if I can find another unscheduled position. You can also look at your quick view. If I'm working on a log, let's see, this is the 21st. Here's another unscheduled song, 6 p.m. So we'll go to the 6 p.m. hour. There it is. I want to, again, Shift F9, and MusicMaster, based on the rules, will find the best song to auto replace from that fill category. So pretty handy one. If you need any help, you can always call your music scheduling consultant, and we can walk you through that and set that up for you pretty nice and easy. While we're in the scheduler, as I said earlier, for programmers, time saving honestly is just one less thought, one less thing you have to do or click. So let me introduce you to the results bar. If you have it already, that's great, and we hope that you're getting the most out of it. So to get to my toggle results bar screen, I want to click on this tool right here. It's our toggle toolbars, and I'm going to click results bar. This brings up the information down here. Like, for example, I can check, since I have Creed with wide open arms selected in my schedule, I can look at the minimum rest and artist keyword rest. I can also customize this panel and bring up some other helpful things for me. I don't keep my history graph open a lot, so I want to look at let's see, song nearest plays. I want to see song rotation. Another cool one, if you're working on a lot of schedules in advance, is current date display. So, you may be working today on next Monday's log. When you're in that log, it will show you the current day that you're working on. So these are some cool ones to have. You have a lot of options here depending on what you need. I'm going to click OK. And here we are. The panel works just great. It's telling me that, okay, even though today's the 20th, we're working on Thursday's log. Here's a song rotation grid that looks similar to your history graph. I like this a little better, again, because I need a lot of real estate on my screen. Because, and I'll tell you why in a minute. There's another panel that I want to add that is a time saver, and it's the hour selection tool. With the hour selection tool, I can easily switch between 1 hour to the next with this bar down here. So from 12A to 11P, I can just flip-flop just by clicking on the different hours. So hour selection tool, you can get that, again, by going to your toggle toolbars and cutting that on. While we're at it, let's look at instant analysis. Instant analysis is really cool because for me, the way that I have my analysis set up, I want to make sure that every song that's coded core is getting enough percentage of plays per hour. For our friends in Canada, they use this as their Canadian content analysis, where they have to hit certain percentages on certain sound codes. But for me, and in the US, I just want to, pull out my core songs and make sure they're running at the proper percentage. So I've set it up to look at just core songs, and each hour that I'm in, let's go to the 6 p.m. hour, and I'll get an analysis on my core artist percentage or core song percentage. It's 15%. That's okay. I know based upon the ratings that I receive, I want my core artists or core songs to be about 15%. So you can keep track of that in the instant analysis box. You can also look down here at the indicator of your percentage per hour. So again, 2 p.m., I'm looking down, I'm really good in my 2 p.m. hour with 21% core. And you can go up and down your log. But these are handy things to have. And again, if you need help setting those up, you can always contact your music scheduling consultant. We're available 24 hours a day. So while we're here in the schedule editor, we're not done, because I promise you, you'll be able to schedule like a boss afterwards. Let's look at song highlight filters. This is where I can highlight particular codes, sound codes across my library, or anything that I set up. Earlier we set that new attribute for girl pop. So I set up a highlight for that. And basically, to run you through what I did, it's a sound code. So I went to sound, contains any of, and that newly created girl pop. Click that, press OK, and then add that filter. Of course, it's in there double, so we don't want that. But I added that filter. Another important thing, you can name your highlight column. So I'm going to name this one. Let's just call it G-pop. Maybe we're on to something. Maybe we've got a newly created sound code for radio. We'll call it G-pop. And again, you can have up to 12 different highlights across your database. This highlight number 2 are for my star artist. And basically this was set up based on type equals format superstars. I've got another one here that contains all of my fast songs, where tempo contains, it's filtered through tempo contains any of fast and hyper. So these are schedule highlight filters. I believe all of these are used in this database. Here's an open slot. We've got slot number 12, where, we can say, hey, I want all of my female artists to stand out in my database. So that means I want to filter by role contains any of female. Click OK, add that filter, and there we are. Female stars. The column will be called stars. Now that we've set up the filters, we click OK. You're thinking, where's it at in my view here? We have to modify the view and actually bring those new highlights into the schedule editor. So to do that, again, I'm going to hit the modify layout icon that is consistent across MusicMaster. It's the index card with the pencil in front, right in between the save and load icon. So the newly created schedule highlights will be towards the bottom of your field order over to the left. Let's say, I want to look at the G-pop. Definitely want to see those artists stand out in my scheduler. Also, give me my alt rock songs. I want to see those, because I'm a hot AC, but I don't want to run too alt pop. So I want to see those songs stand out as well. I click OK. And here are the highlights that we set up. G-pop, and the column that we named it, and the color that we assigned it. G-pop up and down our schedule. Pretty cool to see that information just highlighted and right there in your face, as well as alt rock. For me, I see two alt rock songs back to back. I don't know if I really want that in a how they see. So it's good again to have this visual indicator. Again, one less thought I have to think about when I'm scheduling. So that is highlight filters. Again, this multicolored box takes you to the place where you set that up. Once you set it up, you want to go ahead and modify your grid layout. Say that I'm okay with this layout. I love it. I've got my airtime. I've got my artist title. I've got my highlights, my runtime. This looks great. So I'm just going to go ahead and save. I want to set this as my default. I'll save this as a default. So every time I come to my schedule editor, everything is right there for me. And as I was talking about earlier, in the schedule editor, we all love keystrokes and shortcuts and different ways to do things. Let me introduce you to some of my favorite shortcuts and a way that you can define your own unique user shortcuts. One of my favorite shortcuts is what we call Control R. In this library, for example, or in this schedule view, let's look at Journey. I'm going to highlight the song Journey, and the song scheduled is Lights. But say for example, I want to put some variety in it. I'm going to hit Control R on my artist field, and this is going to query the library for all songs by Journey. I'm going to add that filter, click OK, and what's going to happen is I'm going to get songs that can schedule by Journey, if any. It looks like that's the only Journey song in my library. So let's find a format superstar where I know for a fact I've got we know Nickelback and How They See go hand in hand. So let's hit Control R in this one. We're going to get this query box. It's going to open up a specific query for artist equals Nickelback. No, we're going to get that. I knew it. Leave it to Nickelback to be all over How They See radio at one point in time. So Nickelback here, it's giving me a lot of different options, even my fill category. So, I didn't want that one that's scheduled, so I'm just going to replace it with something out of my fill category. Again, that is Control R, one of my favorites. I introduce you again to Shift F9. You can use that. It's really handy when you have those unscheduled. It automatically populates a song in that position based on the criteria that you set up under Tools Options. Shift and page down takes you from hour to hour, or you can go page up. Page up takes you previous hour. Page down takes you to the next hour. Super easy, super quick. Again, we all love these quick, handy keystrokes. And I'll tell you where you can actually find a list of shortcuts. You can print this list out, keep it near your computer, print it out. If you go to Help and then Index, we're going to type in shortcut keys, and it automatically populates here. We're going to open up shortcut keys. There are shortcuts all over MusicMaster, not just in the schedule editor. So, for example, clock editor, we have shortcuts there. We have shortcuts in your library quick editor. We've got shortcuts in your schedule calendar, and most importantly, shortcuts in your schedule editor. You can, of course, print this out, keep it handy, and you should be able to call that up whenever you need. There are tons of shortcuts, so it's easy to get lost in the sauce. My favorite thing is to just go down and find the ones that I know that I'll need. Here's another function. Since we're talking about shortcuts in your library maintenance and in your schedule editor fields in MusicMaster, you can set up key mapping. Key mapping is just a really cool way to define your own shortcuts. So for me in this database, Alt-1, if I hit Alt and number 1 at the same time, that command will automatically open up my export to automation screen. Alt-2 is a quick view of the week. Alt-3 is a quick print. These were user defined by me. You can set yours up any way that you like. Let's see, we've got Alt-4 available. And these are some options that you have to map to your Alt-4 key. Maybe you want to load a specific grid. You can select that, press OK, and when you press Alt-4, you will get your grid layout. Let's give this a test. Alt-1 is export to automation. I'm done scheduling for the day. I'm going to press Alt and the number 1, and just that simple, I get my export to automation screen. There's no additional clicks. Again, we save time in programming by thinking less. I just hit Alt-1 and my export to automation screen comes right up. That's super handy. You can set up key mapping in your schedule editor and also in your library maintenance. I told you by the end of that session on scheduling, you'd be able to schedule like a boss. If you have any questions on shortcuts in your schedule editor, always feel free to call us 24/7. Our next section is going to be creating a game changer, a clock game changer out of you. So we're going to look at some pretty cool, helpful ways in the clocks that you can save some time. And also remember, there is a bonus tip at the very end that will open up your world in MusicMaster. So how about that for a good old radio tease? So we're going to open up clocks and look at some cool, quick time-saving functions there. We've got Memorial Day coming up, and I know I've got a Memorial Day clock already created, and I've got this cool idea to do party 9 to 5 on Memorial Day, where I want to take that day and I want to move my Memorial Day clock only into particular hours on that day. Now, I don't have to create a new assignment grid. I don't want to go through the work of, changing the grid and remember what I replaced and things like that. No, you don't have to do that. With Format Scheduler, you can easily open it up. Since I haven't scheduled Memorial Day the 25th, what I want to do is activate this clock with Format Scheduler. So, like I say, Memorial Day Party 9 to 5 theme, I've already got the clock set up and saved. 9 a.m., I want to find that Memorial Day clock, activate it here, 2 p.m. We want to find that Memorial Day clock, activate it there, and 5 p.m. I told you it was going to be a cheesy theme, 9, 2, and 5. So I got my Memorial Day clock. That way I'm not taking away from the format too much, but I'm breaking the format at 9, 2, and 5. We're going to party at 9, 2, and 5 due to this clock. Everything is set up, and now I can just save this Format Scheduler grid for that day. Press save, everything's locked in place. I can go ahead and run that schedule, and at 9, 2, and 5, those clocks will be activated. Again, this is very helpful in the fact that you don't have to go and change your grid. I just want to put that clock in for a couple of hours on that particular day. So Format Scheduler allows you to do that pretty quick and easy. Another function in your clocks that is pretty handy, a lot of people overlook this one, but you can import and export clocks in and out of your MusicMaster. So let's say, for example, I know that there's a station in my group that has a Christmas clock that I really like. I like the structure of power secondaries and Christmas religious songs. So, I call the PD up and I'm like, hey man, I like what you did with that clock. Can you export that clock? And most certainly he can export that clock and send it to you via email. Here's the catch when you're importing clocks from one database to the next. As long as those categories are consistent across databases, you're golden. The songs don't have to be consistent, so it could be an AC station that has the clock. But as long as my categories are consistent with that database and the Christmas clock, we're good to go. So I know for a fact, I asked him, I'm like, what's your structure? He says, I have a X1 for Christmas power, an X2 for Christmas secondary, and an X3 for Christmas religious. I'm like, okay, I can create those categories. Can you go ahead and send me the clock? Sure, no problem. Now I've got the clock and I've saved it to my desktop or wherever you want to save it. You open up your clock under MusicMaster and we want to import. I'm going to go to the location where that clock is. Here it is, my bomb Christmas clock. I'm going to go ahead and click that. Now, I can assign a new clock code or overwrite an existing code. Those are some options that you have. I want, in this case, to, let's see, I'm going to overwrite an existing code. We're going to click OK. Let's see. And we've got our clocks imported, Christmas Day. Let's go ahead and look at this clock and see if it meets our expectations. Here it is. My Christmas power Christmas Power, Christmas Secondary. They're all there. Now, you will notice that my sister station had some legal IDs and sweepers that make no sense in my database, makes perfect sense in theirs, but none in mine. That's okay. At least I don't have to create a clock from scratch. I know that I just need to go in and dress up my imaging, perhaps add some songs to that category that all make sense to my database. So again, that is under clock import. Maybe you are the exporting station, and again, you can do that under clock export. Super simple. You want to first highlight the clock. So I've got a love songs clock and I want to export that clock. I've got it selected and I can export it as love songs, save it to wherever I want to save it, email it off, and you've made a game-changing move for yourself and for your programming friends who are on MusicMaster. Another clock game changer here is, of course, mass changer and clocks. So from time to time, you may get a category that you want to change up across all format clocks or across specific clocks in your library. In this case, my VP has come to me and said, you know what, we're no longer doing gold songs on this station. We're going to just primarily focus on new gold. So I got to remove my gold songs out of my clocks. I don't want to go through every single clock. I'm going to open up the format changer and we're going to search for gold and we're going to replace with new gold. Now, here is a disclaimer. Before you do this, you want to definitely take a backup because there is no undo function on mass changes to clocks. So before you take a mass change across your clocks, you want to do a backup first. So again, I'm searching for anything in my clocks with the category gold, and I'm going to replace it with new gold. Clocks to change, I'm going to say across all of my format clocks. Now, considering I've got my backup already done, and I'm going to click OK, and MusicMaster will again warn me once again that there is no undo button to this, so make sure you have a backup in case you need to go backwards. All right, 8 clocks have changed. A total of 31 elements within those clocks have now changed from gold to new gold, and goodbye to the Beatles that we so loved. So there we are. Those are some cool game changers in your clocks. And as promised, I'm not going to take too much more of your time, but I want to show you this really cool function in MusicMaster. I promise you that it will open up your world. So let's open it up. Under View, we have what we call User Tools. So now you see here over to the right, you're thinking like, wow, these icons, where did you get those icons from? And how do I set that up? For me, I think as you go in to work, MusicMaster really is the only program that you need to open. You can set up external links, custom buttons to take you anywhere to another application or to another website. As I have set up here, I've got an application button or a website button that takes me to my MusicMaster blogs. I've got this crazy idea and I want to search and see if MusicMaster has a blog for it. So let me click this user tool and it takes me directly to the MusicMaster blogs, and I can search for whatever I'm looking for. Maybe I want to create a theme weekend, and it's right there, simple, easy. When I'm done, I can return back to MusicMaster. Of course, for Music Day, I'm working with my music director or VP, and I want to open up MediaBase directly from MusicMaster. I can click the MediaBase link, and it takes me to my MediaBase login page, so on and so forth. Nielsen, or here's a funny one. You're scheduling, you're grinding away inside of MusicMaster, you lose track of time, and you think, oh, I've got to get on air, but I need to show prep first. So I've got TMZ as a button icon. So let's talk about the backstory of how to set up these user icons. It is essentially a MusicMaster INI file that is in your MusicMaster folder. MusicMaster will open these icons as it opens the program. INI stands for initialization. So this looks very technical, but if I can figure it out, anybody can figure it out, because keep in mind, just a year ago, I was just a PD. So button number one, of course, is my MusicMaster button, and it's taking me to a specific link. It's taking me to the MusicMaster blogs. Tooltip is what happens if I hover over that particular link. Internal means that I want it to open up in an internal or external browser. If I had to set to one, it would open up in an internal browser. And then I created an image. I just found the MusicMaster logo, and I've got that logo saved to my desktop, so on and so forth for each button. You can also do applications such as Adobe Audition. You can launch that straight from MusicMaster. Maybe you want to set up a link, an external link to YouTube or your Gmail account. This is where you would design that. Again, this is called a MusicMaster INI file. You can create this on your own. We have videos for it, or you can call your music scheduling consultant. We'll be more than happy to set this up. It's one of those things, once you set up, it is going to open your world up, because again, you can walk into work, open up MusicMaster, and there's nothing else you have to do for the rest of the day. So hopefully these hacks worked. Hopefully they made sense to you, and hopefully you'll start saving a little more time in this crazy year that we call 2020.